What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fish Lift Eat podcast. Thanks for tuning in with us on this awesome Monday. We hope that we can get your week started off right with some fun fishing content here. So joining us today, we've got part of the boys back at least. So we got Chad, and then we got the famous red-headed bearded man himself, Poppa Stark. What's up, buddy? Glad to have you back.
Oh man, I sure am glad to be back. Dadgummit.
Chad's tired of only having to talk to me, so Chad's as happy as anybody that there's another face on the screen besides the dumb Georgia hillbilly.
I love it.
Casey's been carrying the show for us here, so
yeah, for sure, man.
And that's why the ratings have dropped. We've been having to force Chad to get out of his comfort zone and talk a little bit, so he's hated it because we all know that nobody wants to sit here and just listen to me by myself for however long an episode goes. So we've had to prod Chad to talk up a little bit. So Chad's got his own little fan base now. People are loving it.
Yeah. Watch out, mail's coming.
We got the Chad squad.
Right.
Oh man. Well, Papa's had some fun stuff going on here lately that we're going to get him to recap on. For those of you that were able to tune into our episode we did, I think the first episode we put up for 2024 when we talked about New Year fishing resolutions. Y'all heard me mention that, for Fish Lift Eat, that we're trying to we're in the planning stages right now, but we're going to be hosting, some Fish Lift Eat fish camps kind of in various parts of the country that cater to, fly fishermen, freshwater bass fishermen, etc., so that we can kind of cover both ends of it. Well, Papa kind of already jumped on that a little bit. So for those of you outside of the Hunt Lift Eat community, we're kind of regionalized within the team here. So we got the Southeast region, the Northeast region, etc., and where the team members that are in those areas, there's more opportunity to meet up, do stuff in person, get together, and really get the full benefit out of the community that we have here, and being together and doing the things that we all have in common. So I'm not going to dive into too much detail about what Papa headed up in his region. I'm going to let him talk about it, but there's definitely desire to get out and do stuff together in each community, and that's exactly what they did. So why don't you go ahead and give us a layout and a little bit of a recap of what y'all did in your region, Papa?
Yeah, man. So a while back, I've kind of emerged out into this kind of fly fishing role within the team, and a lot of the folks in this area were really interested in learning. And on top of that, kind of some of the stuff like what Casey had already said was we're trying to do these in person, get everybody within the regions together. And it's tough at times. My region being the Southwest, we're pretty spread out. I've got Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico that's within my region, and I'm the region lead for this area. And establishing a core group of folks has been really nice, and we're trying to branch out and pull everybody in. But I had an opportunity to share one of my favorite areas with the rest of the team, and we just kind of threw it out there like, hey man, let's check out getting everybody together, come and do this fish camp thing where they come down, and there's a little kind of a spring fed area of Blue River here in Oklahoma where they stock trout from November to March. And so everybody, expressed some pretty big interest in that. On top of, other than just coming and fishing and chasing trout, but just spending time with everybody. It kind of really got started. The fire got lit when we did the team rendezvous in June out in Virginia. And so, we lined it up, and I had 6 or 7 show up. And we had a couple of campers, set up for everybody. And day one we come in, it's kind of raining pretty good, and but we got some breaks, got out, did a little bit of fishing, did a little bit of instruction, and guys caught some fish, and everybody kind of we pulled together and had some calls beforehand to line out how we were going to do meals and things of that nature. And so we had some really great meals. I think first night, a guy from here in Oklahoma, David Childers, he brought like 4 pounds of ground venison, and so we made a big pot of venison chili, out there around the campfire. And it was kind of funny. I was like, yeah, man, we'll just make a big old pot of chili, and I'm sure there'll be enough left over, and we'll throw it in the camper, and maybe we can dog that for lunch tomorrow too. And no, we ate every bit of that crap. Like the first night, like 6 of us just devoured this stuff. Had some guys show up that were close enough to the area that weren't able to stay for the whole weekend, but folks still come out and enjoyed the brotherhood and the camaraderie and hanging out and telling stories around the campfire and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure lots of folks have heard about for a long time. And you see it and hear it in movies and this and that and the other, and it's something that we're really cooking on within this team. You see it in a lot of different places. Like I said, we had the rendezvous back in June, and then the same weekend that I did my fish camp here, they had a second winter rendezvous that was kind of centered around some doe management on some property, again back in Virginia. And so cultivating this tribe and this community around the campfire, man, and it was really great to meet some of the people. There's a couple of guys there that I already knew, but they were also about half. It was about half and half folks that knew, folks that I didn't. And man, just again, I said it with the first rendezvous, but seeing everybody coming together like we'd been together forever. You know what I mean? Just we fell right in, having a good time. Had some really great moments. People kind of breaking off and having their own individual conversations with things that they're involved in everyday life that they kind of coincide with each other, and it's great, man. It's really, really, really cool to see. And but back to the kind of the fishing side of it, I got to get everybody out. I got to get some one-on-one instruction with everybody on just casting and a little bit of reading water and understanding some trout habits and things like that. And I think everybody but one person caught fish. But just all in all, man, we had an excellent time. Ate some great food. Had some Austin brought some duck eggs, which I've never had duck eggs before, and I highly recommend that. They're very rich and they are delicious. Along with some sausage that was made from a wild hog for breakfast. So we had some bacon, just regular old thick cut bacon, some wild boar sausage, and some duck eggs that proved to be one hell of a breakfast. I think lunch that day too. We cooked quite a lot of that too. But just those times and those opportunities to gather around, gather around the old feed trough, gather around the fire, bail off in the water, freeze your toes off, and have a big time, and just laugh and have all the fun in the world. And looking forward to doing it again. I've already got another one. This was back in December, just the middle of December, and it was enough to generate everybody, a little bit of FOMO, I guess you could call it, and folks wanting to come back out the first part of March. And so we've got another one for the Southwest region. And really, honestly, if anybody from anywhere else wanted to come, I don't give a crap. It's just something that we're doing, regionally here. And man, it's a lot of fun. Again, it's really, helping breathe life into this team, and the folks that are coming and doing it are seeing, the value of what we're doing as a team, and so I'm going to throw it out there to the folks that have just joined and folks that have been in for a while that are trying to just kind of find a way or whatever. Like just show up to something, anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. I have yet, to have an instance of showing up with anybody at anything, whether it was just to sit down and have have a beer, have a cup of coffee or whatever, that hasn't proven why I got here in the first place, And so hosting fish camps and stuff like that for the fish lift eat side and regionally is something that I'm really looking forward to moving forward.
Man, that's awesome. So I was at the Virginia rendezvous while you were at the fish camp there, and truth be told, it was miserably cold in Virginia, so I would have rather been at fish camp.
It was pretty cold here, man. I think I think the first full day, that Saturday we got up, I think it was about 28 degrees and the humidity was real high, so it's cold as shit.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome though, that even with the weather, you still had the turnout that you did.
Yeah, man, it was cool.
But so tell me, what was out of the people that came, what was the range in experience levels?
As far as fly fishing goes,
yeah,
I was the only one that had done any fly fishing.
So let me ask this: was this strictly a fly fishing camp, or was there some conventional fishing going on as well?
Nah, dude, it was open to everything. I laid it out there initially whenever we got ready to do it. Was, I'll bring some stuff. I've got enough to get 3 or 4 people on the water, and we can get you out there and going, and I'll do some instruction. But you're more than welcome to bring conventional tackle. I've got nothing against it. There's nothing at this particular place that says that you can't do it. There's tons of folks doing it, and that was kind of a cool thing about it. Was 2 of the guys actually went and bought fly rod, like full outfits, to come and do this thing. Like they showed up and had rod and reel, everything ready to go, and had bought some flies. Wherever they were at, the guy kudos really to the guy that they talked to, because he actually gave them some pretty good insight to some stuff that would work. But I tied up some stuff that I know is effective on this particular, stretch of water. But yeah, man, everybody was throwing a fly rod, and it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. But no, absolutely. For the next one coming up and the mini on down the road, if you want to learn to fly fish, I'll teach you how to look as terrible as possible, and but bring your conventional stuff and we'll see what happens, man. Like it's open to everybody.
That's awesome, man. So tell us, did some fish get hooked up?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, man. We actually, I should have sent Chad one of the pictures of that. We actually, they're stock trout, so it's not, this isn't like trophy status or blue ribbon stream where we're trying to keep, we want to leave things for everybody else. Like this particular stretch, by June or so, if there are any fish left in this area, they're going to die out. The water temperature gets up above, for anybody that knows much about trout, once it gets above 68 degrees, they're not feeding. And so about June-ish or so, it's up in that area, depending on, Oklahoma, you never can tell. But so, yeah, we caught some, kept a few, and folks that were in camp had never had trout at all. And so that was another really cool thing about it. And that's another, kind of one of our pillars, the eat side of everything was, I fried some trout up in the cast iron skillet with some lemon pepper seasoning. I think our last dinner we had actually was, I think there was about 3 scoops of that chili left, and we had a couple of lemon pepper trout and some taters and onions that we cooked right there on the campfire. It was one of the best meals I have had in my life. And made believers out of some folks when it comes to trout. and the ease of, how easy they are to clean and cook. That was another
Mhm.
thing I didn't add a while ago was, I showed everybody how to clean a trout. It's just super, super simple. And then, I mean, it's from, river to pan is a pretty quick process when it comes to that. They're super easy to cook. You almost can't screw it up. I mean, the only way you really screw it up is if you burn it. You know what I mean? Other than that, they're super easy. And so yeah, man, it was there were some fish caught and there were some fish ate for sure.
Yeah, we had one of the techniques where we used to, when we'd catch them right away, we would wrap them, we would open them up, we'd put a couple of strips of bacon inside, and then garlic seasoning and things like that, and then wrap them in foil and burn it. And it was absolutely incredible.
I've never tried that one.
Yeah, that was really good. I mean, bacon goes with everything, right?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Chad might have a little bit of Southern in him after all.
I'll tell you.
You sure you're from Colorado?
Keep messing around, Greenie. You better watch it.
Oh, man.
You guys are starting to rub off on me.
Yeah, buddy. He starts talking about bacon and everything.
Next thing you know, Chad's going to start deep frying everything that he eats.
I already eat a lot of that. I just need to learn to do it myself.
Do you save your bacon grease in a jar by the stove?
We used to, actually.
Oh my God! See, you're Southern to begin with, man. You just know it.
I knew long lost brothers. I knew you brothers.
Wow.
I love it.
That's fantastic. We did an episode a while back with John Schneider up in Canada, and that dude had me cracking up at how they would do like the riverside preparations with their trout and stuff. And I mean, they would carry in, the seasonings and sides and stuff like that, kind of knowing how they were going to prepare them. But then they would take like crystal in with them.
Yeah.
They would take like, fine, china plates and like crystal glasses and have a bottle of wine and stuff like that and sit there, cooking their trout on open fire, essentially.
Hell yeah.
And I liked it too. He always called it bonking a trout.
Yeah.
That's what if they were going to kill it and eat it, it's like, we'll bonk one or two that we know we're going to eat. And I really like that. But yeah, so they would talk about taking in, nice dishes and big, nice, fancy wine glasses and stuff to be sitting there on the riverbank to enjoy that kind of stuff with. And that cracked me up.
Hell yeah. That's you take your big, nice, fancy wine glass and drink your $5 bottle of wine, or you take your, $200 bottle of wine and drink it in a red Solo cup. There's never two things that match.
Down here in Georgia, we buy it in the box.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Go get that Franzia.
Yeah, Franzia. I was trying to remember what it was when you said that. Got the good stuff, baby.
Let's just see how white trash Casey is.
Yeah, man.
We won't start talking about like the Boone's Farm and stuff like that.
Yeah, the boxes, they don't pack as well as, just a bottle, though. It doesn't sit in a pack too easy.
Oh, man. Well, what's some stuff, Poppa, going forward here? You've got one under your belt now. So, we are trying to plan some of these throughout the year for Fish Lift Eat. What, hindsight being 2020, if you could do something over again to maybe make it better, what would it be?
Oh man,
I'm selfishly asking that, as technically I've got to have a say so in us planning these events. I want to make sure they're good.
To be honest, especially right off the bat, I don't know much that I could have done to make it any better.
Well, maybe I should ask the people that came. Obviously, Papa's going to be like, "Nope, I planned it. It was perfect. It could not have been better. Everything was executed perfectly." So I'm gonna need a list of attendees, and I'm gonna start asking some questions.
Look, man, I'm the master of self-deprecation, man. So like, I got really truthfully, no, everything kind of, it kind of went off with a hitch, without a hitch. The only thing that I would have done differently personally was we had we had two different camp setups. Like we were all in the same camp, obviously, but I brought my camper, and then my excellent in-laws, they let us borrow another camper because there's a male and female element.
Did you say ex-in-laws or excellent in-laws?
Excellent.
Oh, okay.
In-laws.
I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Boy, bet that was an awkward conversation.
Yeah. No, holy cow. No, and so we had a camper set up for the ladies and then a camper for the fellas, and I had to go in the middle of the day, like Friday. It was kind of a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing, just because I figured folks would want to head out on Sunday pretty early, and so I got there actually that Thursday night and set my stuff up, and then I had to go get their camper that Friday afternoon. That's really the only thing I would have done differently, was already had that camper set up, so I wouldn't have had to go in the middle of Friday to do all of that. So, but yeah, man, it's just, you'd have to talk to everybody else, I guess, because as far as I'm concerned, everything went really, really well, and that's for me being a person that wants to make sure everything's okay and keep everything in line and make sure everybody's comfortable and fed and everybody catches fish. That would be the one thing, is that I wish I could have guaranteed that everybody caught a fish. We had one person that didn't catch a fish, but we'll make sure it happens the next time for sure. But I mean, and I think that's a testament to the folks that we have too, right? I mean, I feel like there were no complaints. If there were complaints, they didn't say anything to me, and I wish they would. I don't have a problem taking that criticism. All I want to do is get better on a daily basis with everything that I'm doing. But yeah, I for me personally, everything went off exceptional.
Well, I think the big testament here is, we love fishing. It's obviously something that's extremely important to all of us.
Yeah.
But it's not always about catching them.
Exactly.
Trust me, I love catching them as much as anybody, and it drives me crazy when I don't. But the opportunity just to share a camp and share that time, and being able to be a part of those experiences for people that have never been able to have that. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm sure that person, I'm sure they wanted to catch a fish. Obviously, They were at fish camp, but I'm sure they still had a great time and learned a ton, had that experience that will now make them want to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. Anybody that I take fishing, if at the end of the day, once we put the boat back on the trailer or whatever, and they're already talking about like, man, I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah.
Regardless of the day that we had, how many fish we caught, how big they were, like I did my job. I made them want to do it again. And that's kind of the way I handle, like, my 4-year-old, whenever we go to the lake, like, I'm not going to take him when the weather's miserable. Like, I don't mind going and fishing in the rain or the heavy winds or the cold or whatever, because I'm just a psychopath like that.
Yep.
But it's like when I take him, every time I take him, I want him to, be a little bit upset that we're leaving. And, every time he passes by, the boat shed, when you pull out of my driveway and like you're going out our road, you drive right by where the boat's parked. And like every time we drive past that, he's like, hey, can we go to the lake? Can we go on the boat? Like, he's always wanting to go do it again. So I know I'm doing my part in that. Does he catch a fish every time we go? Absolutely not. Usually he makes a bigger mess with the rod than anything like I've ever seen. Like, the only person besides like my 4-year-old that I've seen screw up a spinning reel so bad is Luke Cox. Love you, buddy. But now we can find out if the boss actually listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, though, that's it. as long as people are wanting to do it again, then it was a success.
Yeah.
The fact that came in, you invested in them, they left with more knowledge about the sport and about even to the prepping the fish. Like maybe somebody that had already been catching trout or catching any kind of fish, maybe they didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
That they wanted to be able to take that back to their family and can feed them and stuff. And now they know how to, and they know a good
Right.
recipe for how to fix it or whatever.
Right.
But then you also don't know now just the links that can be made between people at those type of events. That's what I think is really cool, because every time that I've gone to a team event, whether it be a rendezvous, whether it be like a pint night meetup at a local brewery or something like that, I always end up with new connections to people, to where, I've seen a lot of people on screens, on Zoom calls, and, it's awesome that we have that capability to, be a team that's spread out all across the country and Canada, et cetera. And we can all get together digitally and meet. But then when we're able to, get together, it's not necessarily like having to go up and introduce yourself to people, because it's people you're familiar with.
Yeah.
But that in-person connection is huge, because I always leave these events, regularly talking and keeping up with people that I met there. So now these people that, come out to your fish camp, so maybe now they've got a new fishing buddy that, that you technically would have orchestrated, that, people that they spent time on the river with and at camp with,
Right.
now that's that many more people that they can call up and be like, hey, let's go fishing Saturday.
Right.
Let's go hit the river and do this, to where now they have that support system and, just that tribe that we always talk about being able to go out and do these things that we love. So, I think having the event's awesome. And then being able to share the river and share fishing time together at the camp is awesome. But who knows how many more fishing trips throughout this year are going to come from that event that we may not even know about. But it's because people were on the team, people came to your event, and they spent that time at fish camp, and now have a list even longer of people that they can call up and go fishing with.
Right.
And it just it helps the sport, it helps the community, and it helps everybody individually by having that network of people. And that's what I think is really cool, and that's what I want to come from these fish camps that we do. I think tentatively right now we're talking about maybe having one in Colorado, and then maybe having one down here in Georgia.
Yeah.
I want to bring people into these camps that, can pour back into the people that are going to be attending from the team. Have people come in and do some like seminar type education stuff. Part of that can be on prepping and eating and stuff, but then it can also be, learning new techniques, learning the tackle, learning the correct way to progress through the levels of, taking it from a beginner angler all the way up to an advanced, to where when people leave from that camp, they're going to want more.
Yeah.
But then it's also stuff that can take them, that they can take back home with them and be a catalyst to, for them to progress on and learn more and get out and spend more time and have more success on the water, that then makes them fall in love with it that much more.
Right.
And, that's what I hope to achieve by having it, is people coming in and leaving with, tenfold what they showed up with.
Yeah, for sure.
And hopefully some good fish catches and memories along the way. Don't get me wrong, but, one of the kind of the core values that we focus on here at Fish Lift Eat is enabling people all across the country to become more successful anglers through education and experiences.
Yeah.
So, part of that is having it's easier to do that when you get everybody together. And that's why I feel like these fish camps that we're working on are going to be so valuable to these people, just because of, being able to get them around, have hands-on learning. Because me personally, that's how I learn the best. Like, I've got to go usually screw something up to be able to learn the right way to do it.
For sure.
Like in bass fishing, one of the taunting things that I don't necessarily think about it even being an issue that people may not understand or how to learn, it's how to throw a bait caster.
Right.
You talk to some people, and that's just like oh no, that's like, forbidden waters. We're not going there, because what do you hear every time? It's like, oh, I don't throw those because every time I touch one, it, I bird nested or whatever.
Right.
And well, there's, that's where, they're lacking that education on like, okay, a bait caster is made up of, the spool, and there's the, the brakes here, your spool tension here, and like showing them how to set that to where if it's properly tuned, and unless you snag it on something, like you can't bird nest it.
Right.
And, you got to go out and blow up a reel or two just to get to needing to learn that. But, it's simple stuff like that I take for granted that people may not know, but maybe they've never had the opportunity to learn things like that. So that's where I would love to be able to pour back into people and teach them stuff like that they can take back home with them and utilize, whether they're fishing in a farm pond behind their house, or going down to the river, whatever they have access to, leaving with something that's going to enable them to be a more successful angler wherever they may be and whatever type of fishing they like to do.
Yeah. Well, like you said, with the entirety of what you just said, talking about folks that are saying stuff like, throwing a bait caster, or always bird nested, or this or that or the other. The one that I hear a lot with fly fishing is, well, that looks like a lot of work, and like, well, I mean, if you watch, Brad Pitt shadow casting or whatever in the hell they called it in the movie, a river runs through it, and if you're just, whipping 17 times into the same little hole and then laying it down, like, hell yeah, it's a lot of work. That's not the reality of it either, though. It looks cool and it's beautiful. It's an art form, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to fly casting. But it's the same really with bait cast, man. I threw bait casters, and all that before, I got into fly casting, and there's by God, there's an art to figuring out, when you're setting your pins and all of that mess and everything when it comes to throwing that bait caster, because you yank that sucker too hard and you're bird nesting. If you set it, if you've got it too loose and you've got too much weight on that, on the end of that sucker, you got to know all these things. But that's the stuff that you should know. When you come into this kind of stuff, you need that kind of knowledge to be more effective, because not only do you owe it to yourself and whatever you're doing, but you owe it to the critters that you're chasing too. It kind of dials, for me, it falls back into like with bow hunting and stuff like that. Like if you're not practicing and shooting your bow all the time, like you're not giving that animal their due respect to kill them quickly. Now with fish, it's a little bit different, obviously. But, do you just want to stand there and just harass fish all day, or do you want to get it done, get him dropped off, get him back in the water and on about his day, or however you want to look at it. I know catch and release fishing gets a lot of guff from people, and Mitch Hedberg, I think is he's one of my favorite comedians. He said it best. He said, catch and release fishermen, they don't want to kill the fish, but they do want to make them late for something. Like, like it's one of the best jokes I've ever heard in my life.
Like that.
It's good, man. Mitch is the greatest, man. If anybody has never heard of Mitch Hedberg and never listened to him, you got to go listen to Mitch Hedberg. But yeah, dude, like what you're talking about too, with bringing folks in and teaching them and letting them see what all this stuff is about, and then for those people, to go on after they leave, like you were talking about with your boy, like chomping at the bit every time he passes the dock, like, oh, we're not going there. Well, this is some bull crap. Like I've had guys that since we went to fish camp, like I said, we only had like 6 people there. And 2 of those 6, so what is that, 33% of the people that went have called me since then a couple of times, asking. They're like, hey, I'm at such and such, and I'm looking at, this or that. Like, what's the better, what's better to put grease to put on the flies, to help them float longer, or what's that indicator that, that you were using, or what's this kind of fly to throw to this kind of whatever, and this and that. They're like, these guys are already like, they've taken and went from stocked trout season, honestly, and they're looking to like okay, how am I going to further this into when the bass bite kicks in, and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really cool. It's pretty humbling to see that, and have that come about after something that that we just kind of threw together. It just to kind of have a hangout, and you see that kind of stuff popping up there. That guy right there, old Jake, the brother-in-law, he never done it before. As long as I've been fly fishing, and I never could really talk him into it. And he went out there and he was like, man, I could really get into this. And we've had conversations about it multiple times. And then obviously eating the fish and finding out that them little critters are freaking delicious,
that always helps.
Oh man, doesn't hurt for sure. But it's just one of those things, man. It's been a good time and standing out there and there's something to be said for being able to stand in the water with somebody and freeze your freaking butt off for hours at a time and laugh and just have a good time and not realize that hours have passed. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else like it, whether it's standing in the water or sitting in a tree stand.
It's what it's all about.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why we're all so addicted to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like that, I saw somebody earlier, like it's one of those things where, like how many casts come after the just one more cast? Like, what does that actually mean when you say just one more cast? And then I saw somebody comment was like, well, that depends. Did a fish rise after that one more cast or not? Because if a fish rises, the whole day starts all over again. You know what I mean? And so, like, it's that same thing. Somebody that's sitting tree stand all day, and you're 2 minutes past legal shooting light, and a doe walks by, and you're like, I guess I better be here in the morning for when she walks the other way. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing, man. And it grabs a hold of you, and here you are.
It's I've always said fishing can be one of the most mentally stressful and mentally relaxing thing on the planet.
Absolutely. I think I said something along those lines. Shameless plug. I just had another article on huntlifteat.com put out that's baby booties to ballet slippers, how to get started in the fly fishing. And part of it in there was, when I'm talking about learning to cast, was to get out in the yard and beat the hell out of your grass and just get frustrated as all hell and enjoy the process.
Yep. It's like in a tournament when you're, 30 minutes left till check in and you only got 4 fish in the live well, and you're just wanting to, you're beating your head against the wall. Like, it's, you're stressed to the point that you can't think straight, but then at the same time, it's really making you kind of lean in on your understanding of the water and your understanding of your abilities and stuff. Yeah. And, whenever you're confident in what you're doing and you're confident in your stuff, that in that moment, it's almost in a weird way relaxing too, of like, I'm doing what I can do. And, I know that if I stay with the pattern that I know is there, and with the technique that I know is there, like it's going to happen and I'm going to be fine.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can be out there, casting a fly when you're doing when you're practicing and all this and that and the other. It can be some of the most frustrating crap in the world when you're starting out. And then the moment that you realize that, my gosh, this has been frustrating and I can't believe blah, blah, blah. But then you've also been out there for 4 hours and you're like, wow, this was actually, I'm pretty relaxed, even though I'm pretty aggravated, and I've been out here and enjoyed the great out of doors for the last 4 hours. You know what I mean?
And what you always have to remember in those situations, and this goes to things beyond fishing, this is life. Anytime you're trying to learn a new skill or a new something, talking about those frustrating 4 hours, well, at the end of that, you're better than you were 4 hours ago.
Precisely.
No matter what, even if your cast isn't laying exactly like you want it to, maybe your presentation is a little bit off, but you're 4 hours closer to being great.
100%.
no matter where you started, you know what you're working towards. And now whatever time you just spent doing that, working on that skill, you're 4 hours closer to being great.
Oh, I love that. That's good stuff. 4 hours closer to greatness. You don't get any better than that. Fish Lift Eat podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you knew you were coming to church or not, but by God, you got it.
Like I've always said, you never know what's going to come out of me until we get on here.
You dropped one right there, man. I love.
But
that.
I mean, in all seriousness, I mean that kind of goes into the mental toughness that it takes to learn something like that. I mean,
absolutely.
Fishing is an ever evolving sport.
Yeah.
Just when you figure one thing out, it's changed. So you've got to constantly be learning. You're going to constantly have something that you're not good at, and you know that you need to, sharpen those skills on. And that's why, back to like what we hit on in the resolutions podcast, I take every year, I find one technique that I'm currently not utilizing, and I force myself to use that throughout that year, just because that's one more tool that I'm going to have in my arsenal, that I'm going to have confidence in whenever the situation arises, that it can be useful.
Yeah.
And that basically means all throughout my year, on something that, I'm comfortable fishing. I'm comfortable on a lake, patterning fish, making presentations to them and being able to catch them. But then you throw me a curveball with a technique and a lure or something that I'm not familiar with, and I don't know how to work it or whatever. Yeah, dude, there's going to be a pissed off Casey for a lot of the year, trying to learn this, just because it is frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where you got to get that mindset of, everything that I'm doing now is going to pay off down the road.
Sure.
The day will come where I'm going to be glad that I spent this time being mad, that I didn't just give up on it and put it to the side and write it off as something I didn't need.
Yep.
Because for me, that may be the technique that I need to land the fish that wins me a tournament one day.
Right.
And
well, whether you gotta blow up on top of the water, or that little bit of tug when you're throwing something down low and you're like, oh my God, like maybe I do know what I'm doing after all.
See, fishing does give you those cues, though. Whenever you are learning something and working on something, like, you get those little cues throughout the time when you know that you may not have it perfected yet, but you're doing something right.
Right. Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, no matter if we're fly fishing, if we're throwing a bait caster, if we're throwing, a cane pole off the side of your uncle's farm pond, when you do something right, you're trying to take either, which I guess if you're using live bait, it's a little bit easier, but if you're using a fly or using a soft plastic or a jerk bait or something, you're basically taking something manufactured and you're trying to make that fish believe that it's something it wants to eat.
Absolutely.
So whenever you get, it don't even have to be a full hookup. When you get a nibble, when you get, a fish comes up and hits on it, something you did was right.
Yep.
Part of your process is better than it was because you were able to take a fish in its natural environment and make it commit to your bait.
Right. Exactly.
So in that moment right there, whatever frustrations and hard times you've had while trying to learn that in the past just paid off.
Yep.
Whether you realized it or not, because now you're always, you're never going to rise to the occasion. You're always going to default to the highest level of training you have mastered. Yep. And I think, that reigns true in a lot of things, but it really does reign true in fishing, because there's so many things that you have to mindlessly do that have to be muscle memory, that you just, have to subconsciously do to be able to make it work. Yeah. And so now whenever you're putting those things together without even realizing it, and that fish bites your hook, your highest level of training that you have mastered is where you're at now. It's where it's where everything that you were mad about in the past all just came to fruition in one moment.
Yeah, 100%. Do you ever do the, I've done this, I did this, I don't know how many times in this last summer with because I really got more into, heavier into the bass fishing, side of with the fly rod. uh, where you do something that entices a strike or whatever. You didn't get the hookup and all that, but then you get that strike and then you're going, oh shit. What exactly was I doing when that happened? Do you ever have that happen?
Dude, all the time. All the time.
It's so aggravating.
Or whenever you make a bad cast and it lands nowhere near where the target was, and you're just trying to like burn that bait back in real quick to burn it back in real quick to make another cast, and then you end up catching one or hooking up on one on that horrible cast, and it's like nothing about that made sense, but it makes you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. I love it, but that's what makes you keep. But what do? You make another cast.
Make another cast. No matter what, no matter how bad you screw it up, no matter how long it takes you to retie and change baits and whatever, you always make another cast.
Yeah, every time.
And so, big takeaway from that is, no matter where you're at on your fishing journey, no matter how little or how much experience you have, always continue to learn. Always continue to try new things.
Yeah.
Be uncomfortable. It is okay to be uncomfortable, but you're just mentally remember that everything that you're doing is making you better than you were when you started the process.
Yep. It'll teach you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, which is, I mean, that's way beyond fishing or anything else. I mean, those are facts of life. If you can take these opportunities to learn, to realize that you may be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not really the end of the freaking world, and you're going to be all the better for it at the end of the day. Like, let's do this.
You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, not just in fishing, but in life.
Everywhere.
Coming from somebody that owns a business or whatever you may do in your life, when you realize that good things can come from uncomfortable situations,
for sure,
you need to get yourself in the mindset to where you almost are seeking uncomfortable things, because you realize what's going to be on the other end of that.
Yeah, it's how you grow, right?
Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable to go fish in rainy and windy conditions, but fish are still in the water during those conditions. Fish still have to eat in those conditions.
Right.
You're never going to learn how to catch fish in miserable conditions until you're fishing for them in miserable conditions.
Right.
So, I mean, you can take that principle and apply it to wherever you are in life, but in fishing, you've that's one more layer of the puzzle, or one more piece of the puzzle that you can expand on now, to where you have a better understanding of them, so that whenever you catch yourself in situations, and maybe you're not in a spot to where you're forced to be out in bad conditions sometimes. I am actually, when you're listening to this, our season starts Saturday, and right now it's calling for rain.
Yeah.
So, if you're not knowing how that kind of stuff affects fish movement at this time of year, you're not going to be able to be successful. So you've got to make yourself go out in these uncomfortable situations and put yourself there to be able to learn in order to be more successful on the back end of it.
Mm-hmm. Always. And that's, like you said, that carries over into everything. If nothing else, man, going out and pursuing anything within the outdoors, and getting that, being comfortable with being uncomfortable is just kind of something that everybody should adopt as an ethos for life, period. Professionally, for me, I can speak from experience just here recently, taking on a new role in a realm that I'm completely unfamiliar with, have some experience with kind of the very, very foundation, I guess, maybe of what this role is, but as a whole, no friggin' idea whatsoever. And being able to take and say, look, man, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I signed up for, and I'm going to get it done. And you don't always realize, where you gain that fortitude, right? some folks, I think, are just kind of freaks and are born with that kind of stuff. But, some of us, we had to do trial by fire, and it's learning how to fly fish. It's learning how to bow hunt. It's staying out when it's, 8 degrees outside and spitting snow, and you really want to make, you want to be successful and come home and get a pat on the back or whatever the case may be. Just that comfortable being uncomfortable. But even if you don't catch the fish, if you get that strike, like we just said, I did something right. And that's going to make me come back and chase this thing again. And that's going to give you that confidence to keep rolling. It doesn't always have to be a friggin' touchdown. You could have got that inch on 4th and inches, right? That's all you need sometimes.
Just keep moving forward.
Just keep moving forward.
So, after all that, I think that really illustrates what we try to accomplish in these events, whether it be the team rendezvous or, the fish camps that we're going to be hosting throughout 2024 here. And, we always want to make sure that you're leaving with more than you brought. Mm-hmm. So, I'll put the plug out right now. If any of this sounds interesting to you and something that you would like to be a part of, I encourage you to go over to huntlifteat.com and put your application in for the team. And because we would love to, be able to get on and chat with you about it and see if it is a good fit for you, and make sure that, that we can provide a lot of value to you, and so that you can also be a part of this tribe that you hear us talk about, because it's a big part of what we do. It's a big part of our lives as individuals. And, we want to bring you along with the trip with us. So if it sounds like, something you'd be interested in, if it's that missing link that you have right now, whether it be, a network, a resource, anything you like, even just the camaraderie, I encourage you to go put your application in, just like each and every one of us did at some point in time.
Yep. 100%.
Well, Poppa, I appreciate you getting on here and telling us about your event. Obviously I wish I could have been there after hearing about it. I know that it's going to be a continual thing now. I think you've lit some fires in some people where they're going to be seeking more and wanting to do it again, whether it be at a formal event or just getting together with your buddies and going fishing. So I appreciate you for, putting in the effort and the time and the work to host that event and lining everything up and creating the opportunity for people, because that's the first big obstacle you have to overcome. So I hope it was rewarding to you as much as it was to them. And it sounds like it was, from what I hear.
100%, man. It's anytime I get the opportunity, I've said this multiple times, anytime I get the opportunity to share my passion with somebody, to teach them, or even just explain it to them, if we're just sitting down and talking about it, just like we're doing right now. And if it weighs on your soul, even just a little bit, hop in there, feel free to give me a shout and let's do this thing.
Yeah. So if you are ready to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram at Fish Lift Eat Official. Then we're over at TikTok at Fish Lift Eat Official as well. And then, if you're watching us here on YouTube, we appreciate that. And make sure to click that subscribe button down there at the bottom and like and comment on this video so that we can see where you're at and how we can better connect with you and answer any questions you might have. But boys, it's been a good one. I've enjoyed it as always. Chad, I'm just happy that you were able to see somebody besides me. Maybe one day we'll have to branch this off and just have Chad only episodes.
Oh yeah.
You guys were talking about putting, yourself into, out of your comfort zone. That's it right there.
That's where I was going at with it. That's where I was going at with that.
Yeah. Nope. Screwed yourself. There you go.
Yep. I know what 2024 is going to be looking like.
So let's start a hashtag. Everybody hashtag more Chad.
Hashtag more Chad.
Hashtag we need some more Chad.
I love it.
I hope I make it
Yeah.
through the year.
You know, people down here in the South, you know, they'll always say needs more cowbell. No,
Yep.
it just needs more Chad.
Just need more chance. I love it.
Oh, well, all our listeners, we appreciate y'all as always jumping on here and hanging out with us, and hopefully we were able to impart a little bit of something on you that you can take out and apply in the water and everywhere else and become more successful with it. But until then, you know, y'all remember to always keep them lines wet. We'll catch you on the next cast. See y'all.